2020 was good for anything, it was that it gave me a lot of time to think and plan, and one of those plans was to write a lot more short stories. While I'm enjoying writing things like Outsider and finishing off Aphelion, short stories are really great just to have a break from the bigger projects, and it also teaches you to just get to the point on larger novels, and short stories are a really good way to just constantly refine that skill. Google Ads being a thing, I got a competition recommended in the side for a company called Vocal, which I've never heard of before, but I had a look at it and it's a writing platform, and they were doing this in collaboration with Moleskine. Now, if you've done any kind of art, any kind of writing, any kind of graphic design, I guarantee you've either seen it used by somebody or you've used it yourself. In England, you see them sold in every single WH Smith. If you're doing any kind of graphic design course or art course or anything like that, someone will have used these, so you've seen them. And I have used many of these sketchbooks. So I was really excited because I've used this company for a long time and I love their notebooks. And what I really wanted to do was try and write a story where I hadn't come up with the initial idea, and it would be a really good practice because it's fun coming up with the initial idea, but then it's also a really good way to just stretch your imagination when someone else gives you an idea and then you have to try and put in your own way of telling a story with that. So I thought I would give it a shot. I'm not going to lie, winning the £20,000, well, it's not pounds, it's dollars, so it works out at about 14,600. Still nothing to spit on, so I'm going to give it a shot. So I decided to approach it the way I would a graphic design brief. What are the rules and limitations, and what is the feel that I want to go for? The rules were simple: create a fiction story about someone who unexpectedly comes into $20,000, and your story has to include a small black notebook. Obviously, that little book was going to be a Moleskine sketchbook, but then there were other things like it had to be between 600 and 2,000 words, adhere to community guidelines. I was good to go, I had my ground rules, and now I needed to write the book. So, where to start? At first, I was a little stuck on the £20,000, and honestly, who doesn't get excited at the idea of winning something like that? I spent way too much time thinking about elaborate maps, hidden treasures, and years of stashed cash that honestly, it just got in the way of me thinking about the actual roots of the story. Who is this story about? Who is this character, and what happens to him? So I spent a day going in circles, writing down notes for ideas that just went nowhere. So in the end, what I did is I just scrapped everything and decided to do a little bit of research. Moleskine, the little black book, just forget about the 20,000. First thing I did is went to their website and read more about them, how they started and what their vision was. It's that last line that finally got the idea in my head. I want this idea to be simple. No grand treasures, just an ordinary boy who was given something priceless by his grandmother, and it wasn't going to be the lottery ticket. So she was a teacher, an art teacher, and each year for his birthday she would give him an art book filled with an illustration of his interests over the last year. She doesn't have a lot of money. Some years she's a little bit lucky and she has a little bit more put to the side so she can take him out for a nice dinner or maybe pay for him to go to the cinema. But the one thing that consistently happens every single year is she gives him a notebook full of all the different things that he's been learning that year, the things that he's interested in. She tries to do it in the style that he likes. For example, one year he's really into Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so she does the whole book in the style of Quentin Blake, and she always finishes it off with one little lottery ticket at the end. When I first started writing this, I thought I was going to go for a slightly different route. What I wanted to do was go for a bit of an adventure storyline, the idea being that you find a map, maybe it was left by a grandmother or a grandfather who'd seen something when they were younger and they thought that maybe that would be a hidden treasure, and then there would be a reward money because that treasure would be some kind of priceless artifact or something like that, and then there'd be a reward for whichever museum got it. But in the end I decided now this is just too complicated. With a lot of these sketchbooks, they tend to be incredibly personal to the people who own them. If anyone's ever spent time filling up a sketchbook, that thing is I think you'd rather lose your purse than lose your sketchbook, because it's, at least I would have, because I've spent months filling these in and drawing them, and sometimes it has ideas jotted down on it. So I thought, no, I need to bring it back and focus less on winning some massive prize and rather the value that there is in this creative outlet, which is this little black book. So I decided to go down that route instead, which I thought was a much better storyline in the end. It had less of a chance of just going in all directions, and instead it kept very focused on the idea of just, no, what is the value of this book, and how has the grandmother made it to this priceless item for her grandson. And I really wanted to hammer home a point of once he does win that lottery ticket, that the first thing he gets is a little black notebook, because now he feels like he's finally got that spark that his grandmother had, where she could just create and she wasn't scared to mess up. And he feels like he's at that point now that he can do that, but with writing. So that's what I wanted to try and go for. Now that the story was done, I needed to make the cover. At first I had a few different designs where I wanted to have all these very colourful notebooks around a little black notebook, so that there's a bit of a contrast between how plain one book is compared to all the others, which are very colourful and bright and very beautiful to look at. But in the end, it's the little black one in the middle that's the most interesting, because that's the focus of the story. And I did try that, but in the end I decided I really wanted to be able to see the grandma somewhere on that cover, so I ended up doing a little portrait of her, showing a tiny little bit of that lottery ticket as well. So I ended up getting a lottery ticket just for that particular photo. Managed to get the photo that I wanted, drew everything, had it laid out, got the thumbnail, and now I have a lottery ticket to try out. So let's see if I win anything from that. Can you scratch? An attempt was made. Is that funny?
Go on, you do it.
Come on, can you do it? Go on, you try.
Completely not working, sweetie.
Yeah, so
We've won nothing.
we won nothing.